Hello, everyone. Welcome to our new webinar. So today it will be, as you see, in English. My colleague Adrian, who is our top-notch consultant at 10% World, will be hosting this event with our special guest, William McClain. So for the live webinar series we are hosting, we always invite experts in the field. So as you may know, we are a career consulting and recruitment firm. So the subject of the day is oriented HR and more specifically business HR. So that makes just a lot of sense for us. We are so happy to have William today for this event. So during the webinar, should you have any question, just feel free to ask them in the little chat box or in the Q&A option. And Adrian and William will answer them at the end of the event. So basically, I will now pass it on to Adrian and William to start this webinar.
All right, thank you very much, Fanny. So, welcome everyone for this new webinar session. Thank you very much, William, for being with us today for this specific topic on how to be a strategic HR and why it matters. Maybe to start this webinar, could you tell us a bit more about your background?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Fanny, and thank you, Adrian. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. As you said, my name is William McClain. With my American origins, many people also know me by Bill. So American born, I lived many years in Switzerland, and now I also have Swiss nationality. I am a international human resources leader. I've got extensive experience across all HR disciplines, covering 5 continents and more than 25 countries. I think I'm commercially focused with experience really across trading, logistics, supply chain, manufacturing, as well as downstream businesses in B2B, B2C, and agribusiness and food industries, with a big focus on more entrepreneurial cultures and decentralized organizations.
All right, thank you very much for that. And so, with the 20 years of experience that you have in the agri-food industry, you have seen many changes in the top management. How often did it happen for you, and how did you adapt the HR philosophy?
Yeah, well, you start with the big question. Yeah, for sure. In the many years of experience, I have seen a lot of leadership changes, and myself worked with 5 different CEOs in regional or global business segment capacity. I think what's important is as you go through those changes is immediately working to understand their vision. You want to know what the priorities are, what their leadership style is, and get to know where you can help them, because you need to be able to understand where you can bring value to those leaders. So understand them, spend time talking with them, and then you also need to understand or assess the organization impact from their style, what their objectives are, what they're wanting to do, and and sometimes you adapt your HR structure. I think a couple of times I had to change the organization in my function, but definitely in the priorities. And if I use an example of one CEO, first CEO I was working with was very much of a top-down decision maker, liked to make all of the decisions. And so when he was succeeded and his replacement came in, the second CEO wanted to bring more of that entrepreneurial, more ownership down to the country level. And so spent a lot of time with him to really put a grassroots change effort into to put those, to rebuild that ownership, if you will, locally, and create that energy. So again, maybe wasn't the priority we're doing with one, but then move on to that. To help build that more entrepreneurial spirit, or regain it as we used to have it in the past. But I think also, again, CEOs and leaders, you can't change them. I mean, our job as HR leaders are to coach them, to advise them, to give them feedback, and tell them, help them understand what the organization needs from them. But as you can't change them, you also have to help maybe fill in the gaps or support them in areas where they're not as strong, but the organization needs. And if I use the same 2 examples of those CEOs. And anybody on my team that would ever hear me say this would laugh, but as being a very tough top-down CEO, I was the soft guy. So I had to play a role to, if you will, cushion with my peers and the management team, the decisions or sometimes his 5 in the morning emails, but really working to be the softer side and help listen to them and so on. And then he had the other side when his successor took over. It was that, as I mentioned already, more collaborative, wanted more of a everybody making decisions on their own and so on. So I had to adjust myself to say, okay, now instead of being the softer side, now I got to be maybe a bit tougher and help make the decision. So spent a lot of time working to get decisions made or get things done with him. And again, in this case, a lot of the country leaders would even come to me and say, he's going to ask us to, or tell us to come and see Bill anyway. So we're just coming to you now to get the decision and move forward. So again, it's helping you change your priorities, but at the same time, me as a person or me as an HR leader, I've got to adapt to them and help augment where they have those challenges. And yeah, and then we also had many times wearing 2 different hats, we're supporting 2 different CEOs at a time, which is always another challenge because you're focused on one, but you got to then focus on the other, and they're both different styles. So 2 different organizations, a balance between that. But I think, again, knowing them, knowing their direction, and then you have to adapt what your priorities are and be able to, like I said, maybe augment or fill in some gaps where they have in their leadership style.
Right. So indeed, the key element is adaptation. So in your opinion, why do you think it's important for a HR leader to be strategic and business focused?
Yeah, I think for me it's an easy question, and because I think if we're not strategic and business focused, then we don't bring any value. And I honestly think that HR leaders, they have to know the business, they have to know the strategy, they have to know how the company and the business is making money, and by doing that, we know where to focus, we know how to prioritize, we can then develop a people strategy around that's actually going to bring value and make an impact in the business. So, I think if HR leaders are not strategic and business focused, I think we run the risk of running off or developing different initiatives, maybe different activities that really don't make an impact because they're not accepted by the organization and or not accepted by their leaders. So again, it's making sure that it's focused, it's knowing where it's going to make an impact and how it's going to help the business and drive value. And I often use, a lot of folks again working with me always hear me say the phrase about HR for HR. I think, again, if you don't know business, you don't know the strategy, if you're not really connected in that, you end up running a risk of doing HR activities that sound like best practice or what everybody else is doing, but it becomes more of HR for HR type activities. And I think then it hurts the function, it hurts the credibility of us in the function and the things we're trying to do.
Okay, and therefore, how did you become a strategic HR? And in your opinion, what are the key attributes of a strategic HR leader?
Yeah, I think again, I've always been I think I've always been a big picture person. I think I've always had a bit of a strategic mindset, but I do think starting my career in running a retail business, so many years ago, before the commodity and food space that I've been in, I started my career as a manager in the retail business. I owned my own P&L and responsible for driving the business results. And doing that, I think seeing the impact of a well-trained team, seeing motivated, engaged team that's, that impact that brings into the business results helped a lot. So I think, again, you make that connection with the people, you make that connection with your talent and the business that it's, that you're trying to run. And for those who've ever worked in retail business and particularly run one, it's not an easy job, but I think it also, it builds some, if you will, a bit of character. So it makes you think ahead, it makes you be proactive, but at the same time, it, sometimes in more, I'd say, crisis type situations, you've got to react quickly, you've got to deal with some unexpected. And so I think that, again, helped helped shape me and maybe me a bit the way I did as I moved through the rest of my career. So I think, as you say, some attributes that I think are important that I myself tried to have or to demonstrate is already curiosity, and curiosity, particularly in the business and the strategy. I myself, love sitting in business meetings. Sometimes even prefer to be in a business meeting than let's say a pure HR meeting. But have that curiosity of what's going on, what are the challenges, what's happening, where's the strategy. Know the operations in detail, how it works, I think are key. And then I think, as a good leader, you got to have some courage, because we're, again, with 5 different CEOs that I've worked with, there have been tough leaders and maybe less tough leaders, but you got to have courage to give them feedback, to work with them, sometimes make tough decisions, and even decisions that are different than maybe some of the CEOs. So, some courage is in there. And then for sure, what's happened in the past times the present times we're living is, adaptability and agility, I think are key. You've got to adapt, through the environment. You've got to adapt to the strategy. You've got to adapt with a lot of things and be agile with that. And then particularly, again, I find the pragmatism, being fast paced, particularly maybe a bit more in the environments I've been, but pragmatism and being pragmatic about things, being quick, getting results are key. So.
Okay, and you've had a very global scope in the roles that you've had. Obviously, that entails having many different cultures. How have you succeeded to manage different and international employees within the local country rules?
Yeah, this has actually probably been one of the biggest pleasures of my roles that I have done. I think, and I think I've been successful at it. Again, if I can humbly say that I've been successful at it, I think is due to curiosity. I think you have to have a genuine interest in the country. You have to have a genuine interest in the culture, a desire, or if it at least a how do I want to say, understanding the regulations and so on. You can't be successful working with if you don't know the context of what you're working with. So know that context, and that's important, because one size doesn't fit all. I think, again, that we've all seen, had experiences and instances with a headquarters, whether that's a global or regional or whatever headquarters, that's had good ideas and did good initiatives, but they didn't have the context, or they didn't understand or see if or how something might succeed in that country. So again, knowing the people, knowing the culture, knowing the way things work in that country is important, and you can help helps you put things in place and make things happen in the country. So and then I think it's also to do that, I think it's going there. You need to put your feet on the ground, and a lot of ways put your feet in their shoes, and meet country managers, meet plant workers, meet the folks that are in those countries that you're working with, and particularly for those in Europe, as you know, it's also spending time and knowing the works councils, because the works councils in the countries are important and a voice to be heard. So using all that, collect data, collect input, know how things are getting done, and I think then putting that together, how to make an impact and be able to get results in there. And again, we made a couple of mistakes sometimes trying to do, whether it was an engagement survey or trying to even do a change readiness assessment, and didn't really work with the specific country of the Works Council, and you get stalled because you have to go back, take some steps back and get some things done. So important to get in, know the folks, and like I said, know the context you're working in, the situation, and then being able to measure that all countries are different, if you will. And I think then the other is that my experience is with good HR representation in the country. I mean, you can't operate a international or a function in HR without having some local representation, and having a good one that is there to advise you, and I'd say advise you, not stopping everything you try to do, but is giving you feedback, and you're trying to understand that to be able to make it happen. At the same time, they have a vision and desire, and that's why I say a good one, because they realize also that it's not just a country focus. There is value and global and regional alignment on a number of different issues. So having that good balance in an HR representation in the country is also key. So, and I think it's like any other really customer relationship or individual personal relationship. You know the context, you know the business. Once you know that, and you, as I said, put your feet in their shoes a bit, you can get more things done, and having that common ground and common understanding. So,
okay, and we tend to put human resources, a bit everything under human resources. It's a very wide, and there are many functions and roles under human resources. In your opinion, what is a HR team in a company for you?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's for sure. I think we use the term human resources, and we throw everything a bit into one bucket, but there is a lot under there, and there are very much different roles. And but I think many employees, I think managers, and sometimes CEOs themselves, like I said, do see it as one, and say it's an HR thing, or go to human resources, but as you say, there's different things that are going on. I think kind of compare it a bit to commercial functions. I think there's you have more of a front office type role. So there are roles that are the customer facing. Well, I say customer facing, but working directly with leaders. They're working with the employees. They're discussing and working around the business, the strategy, and helping project future needs and talent in the organization based on that. So again, that front office, if you will, or the customer facing, I think then there are the specialists. So you have specialists who are experts. Those are typically experts in compensation, rewards, talent management, analytics, maybe in some cases systems and HRS systems, but really that specific function knowledge experts, subject matter experts that are supporting the rest of the function. And then you have again, kind of comparing to the back office or more of a service area. So you have administration areas that are, again, providing services. And of course, that all gets lumped in. And sometimes I think, particularly leaders think that's what HR is, just give us a service. And so that's kind of that area that I think people think most about. But I think, again, depending on the size of the company, the maturity of the organization, this part of the function doesn't really even report into HR. It can be into shared services or into the business service, what we call global business services these days. So, but it's a key part of that. They're providing services both to the HR, providing services to employees. So very much in that. But I think that's the area that probably, like I said, gets a bit of HR is the service function. But so yeah, I think very different roles. Everybody's got their responsibility, their accountability for what they're trying to do, and what they should be focused on, who they should be interacting mostly with, and so on. And so yeah, I think as I said, I think a lot of people throw those into that. And many times, people will go to the same person, the one they know, or the one they get a result from, because so they kind of just say, go see HR, and it can be anything. And so part of our job, I think, in HR as well, to help the business understand what it is. So I mean, some of what we would spend a lot of time, particularly as the HR organization would mature, we'd spend quite a bit of time just educating the business of what we were trying to do, why we were trying to do it, and what the function of everyone is, so that we had smoother, faster, and brought more results and helped them in that way. So, but very different distinct roles and responsibilities as many different functions. So.
Indeed, with so many functions and roles under HR, how did you choose the HR profiles for each role and country?
Yeah, I think here that it depends a bit on the size of business. It's as well as the HR team. We've got a big HR team. The roles become, let's say, much more distinct and separated in terms of responsibility. The team is smaller. You may blend some of those roles together a bit, and so you kind of have to blend the profile, if you will. But I think, again, if you look at the three kind of three areas. The business partner is, which I actually by myself personally don't like the term business partner, but everybody, if you talk to people in HR, everybody wants to be one. I don't know if it's cool to say I'm a business partner or what, but yeah, but it is the front facing role. And again, I think here in that profile, you need somebody that does understand or has a curiosity to understand the business. They're advising leaders, so you need to be that more of that coach, more of that advisor, consultant type, if you will. Again, as I said, know business, know the issues, know the challenges, and then you need to be able, this is back as I said a bit earlier, you need to have a bit of courage and be able to stand up to them. This is not a pure service role that you just do what you're asked to do, but you challenge the leader, you debate with the leader, and you work together, and you are true partners in that. So in these types of roles, I mean, more than once, I placed actually a line manager or a commercial leader in these roles. I remember one time I was headed in a taxi to a process standardization workshop. We were trying to standardize our processes across HR process across the region, and so I headed to this workshop and was in the taxi with a person from the organization that I wanted to bring into the HR team. And I always remember her saying to me, she's like, I really appreciate you the opportunity and to be on your team and be part of the function. But as she said, I don't really understand why you want me, because I don't know anything about HR. And I said to her, I said, that's exactly why I do want you. We can help you and teach you what you need to know about HR, but the industrial operations of the organization. You're going to be able to have credibility and be able to talk with them. And like I said, we'll support you and teach you the things that you need to know around HR. And to be honest with you, I've made some good hires and some bad hires, but she's probably one of the best placements I ever made in the HR function. Was a real success and did really well. So.
Right.
Yeah, and I think then in the middle office, again, it's kind of these expert areas. I think these are the folks who are going to advise you on programs. They're going to put together guidelines and certain things around compensation, around talent strategies, or around succession, and those specific areas. They're subject matter experts, whether it's comp, whether it's rewards, whether it's talent, leadership. So obviously in those profiles, you need that subject matter expert. They need to be in depth in that, in touch with the market, understanding what are best practices, what are trends that are going on, and if you will, a bit of a think tank. So you need a specialist in whatever those functions are and broken down into that. But I think here, again, it's also important depending on the size of your organization. If you have a bigger organization, so maybe multiple layers in this middle office or in these centers of expertise, you also have to have an element of leadership, and even if they're more of, let's say, experts in the HR subjects, they still need to have a curiosity and understanding of the business, and so you have to have a little bit of element in that. So some leadership depending on their roles, but definitely a business mindset, and again, from my experience, for having a very international or global mindset is important. So, if I again use an example here, I had a compensation was probably my worst job ever to find HR or compensation people. I made many hiring mistakes for the role, and a lot of times because I'd find a very good and competent, very skillful compensation person in mobility and in rewards and long-term incentives, those things, but they lacked the business, if you will, acumen or the context, and they didn't really work out so well. So I finally made it and found a globally minded and, as I said, very, very business focused, data-driven rewards leader, and so finally got there, but it took me a few steps and a few pain points to finally make it. So, and then in the back office, I think the roles or the back office or the service roles, you're looking here somebody much more administrative. They're problem solvers, they're service oriented individuals, they're improving processes. So you need someone who's good at service, someone who is customer service type mentality, if you will, and able to to provide that and provide feedback and support the overall HR function, but also the employees themselves in that. So, and then you ask specifically about countries. I think it's the country itself has is also a bit of sometimes a blend, because I think in the country element they're facing the customer directly, if you will, at some point. So they're dealing with country management on certain issues. At the same time, they're also working on specific local issues. They're dealing with the regulations. So they're kind of more in that middle office and dealing in that. And then at the same time, they're also providing service based on local elements. So I think there are some elements where those blend, and then, in those places you need those blended profiles, if you will. So, but again, summarize it all up, I would say, very distinct roles, requires, specific competencies as other functions, whether it's in finance. In finance, we break it down a lot differently in tax, controlling, and so on, but very similar in HR and in the roles and the functions that we have. So, and I think, again, it's, I gave a couple examples where I didn't maybe made some mistakes. I think, it's important to have a good profile of the position you have, and then making sure you have a good match as always with the incumbent or the person you put into that role. And people should be comfortable comfortable in their role and not try to be something that they're not. I again have an HR person that I had in the team, and she kept wanting to be business partner. She kept talking about being business partner, and as I said to her, I said, you are fantastic at service. You're fantastic at solving problems or being that go-to person to deal with the service of an employee. So, and you like it, and you're very good at it. So be happy to do that. We can find ways to get you exposure, do some other things, but don't try to be something you're not, and then you're not successful. Be where you are, and do well at it as she did. And I think then the other thing in terms of profile across all of the areas, and touched on a little bit earlier as well, is just being able to adapt to the strategy, the business strategy, adapt to the new tools that are out there. Or we all know change is constant, and if we haven't seen realized that in the last 12 to 18 months, for sure, it's so you've got to adapt the situation. You've got to be able to have that agility within that as well. So I think that's, again, something that's common across all the profiles as we go forward. So
right, and obviously I presume, since adaptation is a very important aspect, it most probably requires developing as well some people. And how have you developed people on your side?
But for me, the best way I think to develop people is giving them experiences, stretching them out of their comfort zone, and that can be in giving them a new role that's not within their expertise, or having them work on projects. I think if the person has curiosity, I think if they have a learning aptitude, then why not take them out of that specific role they have and allow them to develop. Myself, I think all along my career, to be able to do what I've been able to do, there's been a lot of people who've trusted my learning ability to let me take on new experiences and try those. So I think that's key. If I even use myself as maybe a first example, after starting my career, or starting my HR long career in compensation, I've now been in more customer-facing type roles and partnering with international businesses. But at one time I said, look, I don't have as much exposure or experience in the talent management. So, I took on a role for a couple of years to say, to grow my knowledge, grow my experience in that area. And, if I could say, probably where I learned a whole lot, because I was not at all the talent management expert. And I said to the team, I'm not, I'll bring to you business focus and help make the connection of the function to business. But you guys are going to have to teach me let's say the real subject matter here. And I think, I learned a lot, but I think it's probably one of the things that we were if I use some of the words we use today, but disruptive. I think that was where we were most disruptive and made some of the biggest impact in the organization. And similarly, I think in that role, I had a person in the team who was, she had been doing, I don't know how many years, leading the learning management system, or let's say managing it, implementing it, putting the content in, and so on. And and I saw something in her that I said, look, what we need to do is redesign performance management. We had a system that was, I would say, a bit more process driven, more compliance. You got to get it done. You got to check a lot of the boxes, versus something that was simple, particularly for the commodity world, if you will. We need something that's simple. We need something that's connected to business drivers. We need to focus on feedback and conversations, and to do that, it needs to be lighter, the whole process and the program itself. Again, she was surprised when I asked her. She said, I do learning management. I don't know really anything about performance management, but I said, she had the right mindset. She had curiosity to learn new things and do things, and she had a personal drive. So I said, okay, you're going to lead us in this effort. And once it was launched and implemented, she thanked me. She said, I didn't know that I could do this, but we made it. We made success. I think was really met our objectives, and then she's continued to go on and do great things in the talent space, and taking on different roles as well. So, and then similarly in that, I think again, kind of getting people out of their comfort zones with, that the function had talent leads in different regions and geography, specifically responsible for geographies. But at that same time, I said, you're all going to lead a global project here, and a global project is something that we're going to do in all of the regions. We're going to do it the same, or the implementation, but you're going to lead it from the global perspective. And so again, able to get them out of their comfort zone, get them focused on something that they don't necessarily know, and get them out of that normal environment. I think broadens the scope, whether that's in specific skills, whether it's just in visibility, whether that's in the overall vision or views that they have. And because again, particularly in big multinationals, it's important to have that everybody has an international or that global mindset. And so I think doing that helps as well.
Okay, and would you say that there would be some good profiles versus not so good profiles, or?
Yeah, again, I think it's there's probably good profiles and not so good profiles. I think probably similar to what we said earlier. I think if you are you need to fit the role that you're trying to do. Again, whatever function that is or whatever role that is in HR. So I think having but I do think having in the context of where I've worked, having that international mindset, being globally minded, being adaptable to the situation, and and a bit how do I want to say. Able to shift. I mean, again, because the environments I've been in, it's we're trying to do global things, we're doing regional things, we're doing country things. How do you bring those together? So that ability to see all of that, and particularly in those environments, being able to work through ambiguity and finding the right way to go. So,
right. For the HR people listening to us today, what specific advice would you have for them?
Yeah, I think again, as we started out at the beginning, I think it's important to study and know the business. I think you have to do that, and you have to do that first. And if you don't, then we're not going to bring any value, because it's just not going to be connected to the context of the organization or the business itself. Myself, I always started HR meetings, or if we had our HR conference calls, always starting with a business strategy or a certain business introduction if they were part of the business that maybe the team hadn't had exposure to, and definitely business updates. So we would talk about what the results look like for the month across all the different business lines, so that we kept that focus. I just, for me, I can't say it enough, and I think that's it's absolutely critical. So, and you can't partner if you don't know the business. You don't know where the business stands. What's even what's on the business leader's mind. Some days, if they've got an issue and they're not making money, then I try to bring something on to them that says do this program or do this. They're going to be distracted. So you've got to know those things and be part of that. So, and then, like I said, know the strategy and how that is going to impact the overall organization and the HR, the resources you need in terms of talent. I had a person in my team once who was a fantastic talent person. I mean, she was a true expert in talent management, particularly leadership development, mentoring, and she had lots of good ideas, but we struggled for them to get grounded, if you will, in the organization. There was wasn't connected to business. It was just, these are things we should be doing in terms of talent management space. And but the efforts really went nowhere. There was no buy-in. There was no real traction, and leaders kind of scratching their head, looking at us about what are you trying to do? And so to help her, I even said to her, I said, okay, now what I'm going to do is, you have to leave your HR toolbox. So close the talent management suitcase, if you will. You're going to take a trip to one of our trading offices. You're going to spend 3 days there. You're not allowed to talk about HR. You're not allowed to talk about solutions. You're there to listen to them, ask questions. This is your time to learn. And I said, then once you've done that and your customer, what we're trying to do as a business and organization, then you can open your toolbox up and see which of the tools, resources you have that are going to help that organization and help the business. So I think it's key. You just got to know the business and put that first, and then we know what tools and what programs, resources that we want to apply. So yeah, and then I'd say the other thing I would say to folks listening is that not all companies are the same. I think they're all have different leaders. We all have different cultures. We all have different challenges in the organization, and quite honestly, we don't have the same margin structure. So, I think we have to, best practice is used a lot. I always get a little bit of a chill when people talk about best practice, because they, think in general, there are good ideas and there are things that are out there. But, for me, the best practice is the one that works inside the company and the environment, the context that you're working. So I think taking all of that, knowing the situation, you then implement what works for you, and you can use pieces of, the trends or the best practice. But again, just realize we're not all the same. Companies aren't all the same. Businesses aren't the same. And even inside organization, when you get into larger organizations, one region's not the same as another versus a country or maybe a certain business line. So, understanding that and seeing how those adapt or how those work, and particularly around cost, because if you have different margin structures, you can't spend the same. Some companies can spend more than other companies, so we've got to find ways to adapt those as well. So I think that's it. Just it's not a one size fits all, and then I'd say the other thing is everything doesn't have to be perfect. And from my experience and what we've always worked on is sometimes being simple, sometimes moving fast is more important than having something that's perfect. So don't get stalled or drag things on because you're trying to find the right moment, or you're trying to find the best thing. Just get on with it, move things forward, adapt as you go, and learn from that. And again, back to some adaptability, agility, being able to shift around that. So.
And you talked about sending someone from your team in other offices. You mentioned to us that you've been asked several times, but you're in HR. Why do you travel so much? What do you answer to that?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we can't do that anymore right now. So
yes,
hopefully we can one day get back to that a bit. But yeah, for me, I think again, traveling was important. As I said a little bit earlier, particularly around working in the countries, I think you have to be on the ground. You have to know business leaders. You have to know the HR teams that you're working with locally, and know the employees that are part of of the team. As I said, put yourself in the shoes and in their environment. I think as a leader, it's also important to create visibility. I mean, I think you create engagement because you show yourself there. And in my travels, I wasn't just traveling, from Geneva to a nice country headquarters office. I traveled to plant locations. I went into the very different small offices if needed to spend time with and meet people. And I think that shows that you care. I think that builds the engagement, and because you're there spending time with employees, and I would spend my time meeting one-on-one with plant workers. I would spend my time meeting with plant teams or offices, whatever that would be. And I think again, it's important. A couple of things I always felt proud, if you will, about is my HR person in China said to me one day, I think after my last trip there and had visited one of the last plants, she said, you're the only senior leader in the company who has visited all of our plants. And again, like I said, I think it's important because that in doing so in Rizal, once I met an individual and they had scheduled me to have different meetings with different people, and I met with one individual, and I said to him as we were sitting there, I said, "Oh, but I met you a year and a half ago in another plant," and he was surprised. He maybe doesn't say much about me because he hadn't realized or remembered that he met me, but he was quite surprised that I remembered him. And he went back to the China HR and said, he met me, and so she scrambled around and checked the schedule from a year ago and said, "Yeah, you did." And he felt happy and proud that I had remembered him. So I think that just shows that everybody's important in the organization. And in some ways, I mentioned earlier about European Works Councils. I was complimented once by one of our Works Council members and saying, you are one of the few managers who realize that we're all colleagues. And that was always my approach with them, that I'm not management and you're employee or the Works Council. We're all colleagues. We all work for the same company and we have the same objective. And I think it's quite important. So.
Okay, and how else do you think you've set yourself apart from peers?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I set myself apart, but or if it's a specific set myself apart. I think what is it about Bill McClain? As I mentioned, fast-paced. I move quickly. I can make quick decisions. I collect data to an extent, and if I don't have all the data, I can fill that into say, let's move on, and we'll fill in the gaps as we move forward. Very results driven. And I think depending on I think it's important, maybe more so in depending on the environment you work, but very much about getting results and making an impact and making things happen. Pragmatic and I think manage ambiguity, and I think again that's important part of life. So for me, I guess I don't know if it sets me apart, but I think that's it served me well and it's allowed me to make an impact, build credibility with the leaders and teams that I've worked with. So, and I think probably then the final thing, I mean, again, sometimes we can get into certain roles and we're supposed to be the visionary or the strategic person, but at the same time you have to be with the team and roll up your sleeves and get things done. And I can very much work from a more strategic side to being very, very hands-on, getting things done and just really involved in the activities. So.
And as you know, we're active in recruitment. When collaborating with recruitment agencies, what do you expect?
Yeah, I didn't know you were going to ask me that question. No, I think again, flexibility. I think, it's one, we have to know each other. The recruiting firm and the search firms have to know the companies. They have to know the business. And again, I don't think what's on the website or what we know from folks, but really having a good understanding of the culture inside of the company. And so for me, I expect real partnership for people to and the firms to know us, to be willing to adapt to, again, to us. We're, all the companies are different. So for, I think, any firms that, say, here's our process, this is the way we work and how we're going to go forward, I think is, doesn't help. And, but adapt your processes to us, and, to the extent that all those things can be done, but partnership, give and take, and work together, and and ultimately, a firm like yourself should help us save time. It costs us, a lot of times cost us more to use a firm to help do a search. So, help us save by saving time and in the process, don't, and by knowing us, knowing the culture, knowing what we're trying to do, and what fits and what works, you bring us the right profile so that we aren't, going through those profiles.
Things can move
not,
quickly.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sure. And in your opinion, why do you think sometimes recruiters are not always appreciated by HR?
I think, again, sometimes because bringing profiles that don't fit, so it's a few times you see some come in, you scratch your head and say, where does this come from? I think it's a bit of, have to re-explain, what's going on, or to explain the organization, discuss what rehash that each time. I think is that, and I have seen, I don't think you guys specifically, but I've seen a few maybe a little bit more entrepreneurial or maybe a smaller organization. They also contact different people inside the organization, and I think you all have contacts, so you know those individuals, but I think it helps to, if contacting an individual about what might, if you have a profile and you want to share it inside the organization, you want to share it with the line managers, is good, but keep HR in the loop on that, so that we don't sometimes find out that a manager has a profile from a firm, and and they want to hire it. We didn't even know we had an opening, if you will. So again, just that good communication, and I think that's important, and that helps. So.
Okay, and obviously with the wealth of experience that you've had, what has been the best moments in your career, if you could choose one thing?
Yeah, well, my best moments in my career, I've had so many. I've had a lot of opportunity, and whether that's been the Punjabi dance in India, to having lunch with a farmer, a customer in Mato Grosso in Brazil, and then flying over his fields in a four-seater plane. But I guess one serious kind of happy moment was early on, when I was working with a regional leader in the organization, and he had pressure from the CEO to kind of dismantle a country structure and really put in a pan regional structure, if you will. And he was mad. He didn't want to do it, and was continuing to complain, but finally asked me to come and see him. And so I went, sat in his office, and listened to him rant and ramble for a good hour. And then I said, okay, now you got it off your chest. Now let's get to work. I'm not leaving until we have an organization. We need to do that. And it was a little bit painful, but before I left that meeting, where I did walk out with a piece of paper where he had designed the organization in his own pen, and he wanted to keep it, but I told him I was going to hold on to it, and I'd send him a copy, but we needed that as it was there. So it was that moment that I said, okay, I was, stood up to a moment that, needed to, when you had to get something done, and he was going to be tough to get it that way. He eventually became the CEO of the region, and I think even that moment helped build the relationship that he and I had when we partnered later on in different capacities. So, and I think probably maybe on a funner side was my introduction of limoncello into China. So I've had a lot of great experiences with the various teams in China, but after a plant visit once in Danwang, we had a dinner with the plant team, and so here we are eating Chinese food and drinking limoncello, and I still smile about it today when I think of this shy guy coming from small town in the state of Indiana in the U.S. He's now sitting in China, drinking an Italian drink, and playing that game where you paper scissors rock with the plant team in Dunmore was a lot of fun. So good memories and nice fun. So
very good. William, do you have a motto or lucky charm?
Yeah, but I think probably my team had always knew me as by a phrase that I think it was originally Churchill said it, and as everything else, I shorten it up or I butcher it up a bit. But it's he always used the phrase, don't let, kind of similar to what I said a bit earlier, don't let perfect be the enemy of good or progress, if you will. Let's get things done. Let's we don't need that perfection. Let's move forward. So more often than not, I would repeat to them, let's get on with it and see where it goes from here. But we don't have to be perfect. So.
Okay. So thank you very much for all this, William. We have received some questions. I think we have a little bit of time to go over that. So we have a first question there. Can ISO 9001-2015 norms help HR people develop the business mindset?
I'm sorry, can you repeat it?
Can ISO 9001-2015 norms, the ISO norms, help HR people develop the business mindset? So I'm not too sure as well.
I'm not an expert on the ISO norms, but again, I'm not at all an expert, so I would be to try and answer it. I'd say with any real certainty would be tough. But I think if it's impacting the business, understanding those, and for sure it's going to help us to do that if we. Knowing what's going on, knowing those regulations, all those things around the sustainability, all those things that impact the business, and whether that's around ISO, whether that's around safety, whether that's around those areas. Yeah, for sure. I think knowing those, understanding those, doesn't mean any of these we have to be experts, but I think there is a curiosity to know at least what it means, what the impact is, and then when we do that, yeah, it's going to help us be more aligned and more connected to the business. So,
we have another question. How do you see the future of work for HR?
Yeah, I think again, probably we've heard quite a bit about it. And again, particularly given the current environment that we're all living, I think we're gonna the whole elements of well-being are going to be probably focused. I think I was talking to somebody the other day about we get nervous when we hear the word digitalization, because I think it's people we're using it a lot, and probably something like a Zoom call, we're all thinking that's it is digitalization, but to what does that really mean? But I think we should accelerate the digitalization's efforts in terms of the way we're doing things. I think it's the well-being is going to be important, and I think a lot around engagement. I think those are also it's going to be a different world that, as we all know, in some sort of the way work resumes by working at a distance, sometimes maybe in an office, again, using some of the buzzwords out there, hybrid. I think, we're going to have to, how do we help manage engagement, well-being, and of course, digitalization being part of that. How do we manage all of that through and still to do, be successful or to make things happen the way we have in the past. And even using my example, we talked a couple of times about travel. I mean, I think it's, we're going to find travel is going to be, I think, limited, at least for the near future. And if not at all, and that means we're going to have to find different ways to to connect in different ways to work with folks, and that goes into whether it's development, it's going to go into all sorts of things that are going to impact our work. So.
Indeed, and I think it comes back to an important element you've mentioned several times is adaptation again.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Exactly.
And we have another question for you, William. How many languages do you speak?
Well, if you count American and then English, no, I can officially say I speak 2 languages.
Okay.
I speak English and I speak French. Learning some Italian. Along with I don't want to just drink the limoncello. I want to be able to maybe order a limoncello. But learning some Italian, but just French and English. So.
Okay, fantastic.
I tried learning Russian once, but funny story. I took a class and the instructor went through the alphabet for the first hour and a half, and she came back the second lesson and had started out to have me read a few sentences, and then she said, "Okay, we're going to go back to the alphabet." So I spent another hour and a half on the alphabet, and I said, "Okay, I'm not going to learn Russian." But
no, that must be a tough one, I have to say.
Yeah, it was definitely tough, but.
We have another question there. You have worked with various CEOs. What were their main personality strengths?
All of them. I think if I take I think all of the leaders. I think we have our normal traits that are good for certain situations, and I think then once that situation is, let's say, resolved, or you move to the next stage of an organization, then does your attributes work and going to continue on, or do you adapt that and move forward? And I'd say the first CEO I was working with was very much of a decisive top-down kind of approach, and I think at the time he was definitely the right thing for the organization. It needed to be shaped. The company had just acquired this division. They were trying to put things in place, and you couldn't have ambiguity. You needed decisions, you needed action, and I think he drove that. I think again, then as the organization evolved, it matured, changes had gone over many years. Then you start needing something else. So I think then his successor was important, because he brought back in this, okay, now we're shaped and we're driving, moving forward, but now we need to revitalize a bit, and we need that. So he brought in this collaborative kind of approach and tried to, like I said, re-energize the local ownership in terms of the business. And then I think, again, as you kind of move that forward, and then we need to grow, how do we be strategic? So then somebody that's got a little bit more of that maybe business development, more strategic mindset, and growth, those kind of things. So yeah, I think but I think what's important in all of us, I mean, whether that's us in HR or any function, is what is the value we bring, and then as everything, an organization, and it's alive, it's not stagnant. So as it evolves, do we still bring value with the skills and competencies, attributes we have, or do we adapt those to take it to the next level, or do we move on to something else and let somebody else come in and replace? So yeah, I think seen a lot, and it's been very much on the kind of more of a global segment where you didn't necessarily have ownership as the CEO for the people in, whether it be in a different country or different region. You have to have that collaboration. You've got to have that real relationship, and I'd say the influence. You need to really lead more by influence versus having the ownership of. And so playing those roles have also been key for leaders in the certain functions they've had. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think we'll have time for one quick last questions. We have several here. How did you arrive in HR? Has it been a choice, or has it been by coincidence?
Yeah, I'd probably say coincidence, but then coincidence by choice. And again, probably for the sake of time, we won't go into all the detail, but as I said, I started my career in in running a retail operation. Did have the university, when I came out of university, I was able to teach in a US high school if I wanted to, but I decided I didn't want to do that very quickly after I did my, what they called student teaching at the time. So I moved into business. That it led me into eventually, I guess I was somewhat successful in running the retail business. So they asked me to start training new people. So then I, using maybe the bit of the teaching background, I was started training folks. Then I left the retail business, went into retail banking, kind of make the link of the retail businesses, but then I quickly jumped into there was an opportunity the bank, very regional bank in the US I was working for was looking for starting to implement computers and computer software. And so they wanted a program put in place to teach folks how to use them. And so I jumped on. I said, this is something new that I can build. And I like building things and putting things in place. I said, something of interest. So I did that. And then, long story short, I just gradually moved in from there to recruiting. And then I ended some compensation, which I spent many years from there on. So it was, like I said, but by chance, but maybe a little bit of something there that was pushing me that way eventually. But
a little bit of both.
Yeah.
All right, let's maybe go for one last question. So you've mentioned that HR people need to be more business oriented. Do you think HR need to develop their business network outside of HR?
Yeah, well, for sure. I think inside the organization that the HR person is working, for sure. I think and again, I think it's where I've spent a lot of my time to make sure I was in commercial meetings or other things. So inside the organization, definitely, I think it's super important to build that network with the business leaders. And and again, networking is not selling our stuff. It's just we also want to learn what they're doing, and at the same time maybe help educate them a bit. So for sure, inside an organization. And I would say, is at the same time, things I probably learned in the last year or so is also making those connections into, those business connections outside of the company you're working. I think it brings another perspective. You've got other leaders that share, either different industry experiences and so on. So yeah, for me, I think the more we do that, definitely internally, I think it's, you can't be a business HR if you're not networking with the business inside the organization. But I think, different perspectives, different industries bring value to do that outside your organization as well. So.
Okay, fantastic. Well, William, thank you so much again for all this information and advice. I'm sure we are all leaving this webinar with a wealth of information and advice. We hopefully maybe we'll see you soon.
Well, thank you. I hope again. I don't know that. Say what if I have anything, let's say, specific or different than others have experienced, but hopefully something to take away for everybody, and even the questions. I mean, I'm going to do some research on the ISO 2015, so I can learn something as well. And so always good to exchange, and appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to be here. And like I said, in my humble way, share a little bit of my experiences and how I see things. So thank you very much.
It's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much, William.
Thank you.
Yes, I just say a last few words. Thank you a lot, Adrian. Thank you, William. It was very, very interesting. I think for a lot of people attending this webinar, it was maybe like a learning or maybe a sweet reminder of the HR position in a company, to be more like maybe to see things from a more strategic perspective as well, and to be really connected, related to what's the company up to in the end in the global strategy. So it was very interesting for all people here. Thank you for attending as well. And just a quick reminder from our side that we have some webinars coming up. Next one will be on May 6th with the fabulous Annika from Happy at Work. And we will stay in a kind of HR dynamic for the topic as well, because we will speak about the future of leadership. So hopefully a lot of you can attend as well. And just everything is on our website. If you wish to register, it's open already, so go for it. And William, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Fanny.
All right, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
See you soon.